Hello YouTube, we meet again. It's light out, and we can move on to UV mapping. Last time we opened up an image and shoved it as a texture into a material that we applied onto an object that is a plane mesh and rendered it. Well, I don't know if we rendered it, but we definitely have that set up so we can render it. Now what we need to do is to make the 3D viewport also update so that we can see how things align and that sort of stuff. But the only way to get that is to use UV mapping. Now, I don't want to go into details, but think of it as a way to map a 2D image that lives in a plane and map it onto a 3D object, so that it's like you do it the other way. You have a 3D object and you want to somehow cut some seams and unwrap it onto a 2D plane. Now, our case again is very simple because we already have a plane. So we're mapping a plane onto a plane. So this is going to be a very easy task, right? Yes, it is. So let's get going. Now, for the UV mapping, again, we do that to be able to see this in the viewport. Now, by default, it actually shows up as a solid fill. So if I added a UV sphere, okay, so you can see that it looks as if it was filled like that. If I would change it to wireframe, I would only see the sort of edges of the object. And if I set it to textured, I would see all the textures and it would be magical and it would be lovely, but we only see white stuff because we didn't set up the mapping properly. So I'm going to delete this again. And to do the UV mapping, we actually have to talk about the edit mode. So by default, Blender is in the object mode, and we did marvelous things like transformations, rotation, scaling, and movement. And but if we enter something called the edit mode, we actually go like in the hierarchy, object hierarchy, we go a level deeper. So in our case, we're working with meshes. So the surface, the plane that we have, is actually a face, a mesh that has a face that is excuse me, the surface between 3 or 4 vertices are these little points in space, and we can actually assign the mapping as well as edit. Like I could use the same sort of transformation, G for movement, scale for scaling or rotation. You can do that, but you're working on the mesh itself, not on the object. So how do you do that? You do that by opening up. There's actually maybe a better view for this. Okay, well, this is more for compositor, but it doesn't matter. We can't merge this. Yeah, I'm just gonna make this smaller, although it's wasting screen space. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna select all of these, and this is a window type that is called Image UV Image Editor, and this is where it only works when you're in the edit mode. So when you're in the edit mode, you open up a new image. It actually, you can create a new or load an image in here, but it's already loaded when you have it assigned to the material as a texture. So I'm just going to select it from here, and now we can see that are we in texture? No. Now you can see that from now on we have the image in the 3D viewport. So by default, all it did is it really stretched the boundaries of the image to the points where we want. I'm just gonna rotate things a little so you can see how the UV mapping affects the object in the 3D space. So if I would use exactly the same sort of shortcuts. I do S for scale. You can see that we're getting just a part of it, and I'm gonna rotate it like that. And so that's just for you to understand, you know, that we're mapping the texture onto the object. So for example, games would use like a sprite image where there would be parts of like a human figure. So would have a head that would be highly detailed, and then you would have some parts of the object that would be not as detailed, but would be all in one image, so that they can constrain. Because the video card has only that much memory. Okay, I'm on a tangent here. So let's go back. I'm gonna undo. That was too much. Okay. So now you can see that we have what we wanted. If I go to the render view and I hit render, the final render and the 3D viewport are in sync. That they do exactly the same what we wanted. The problem is that we have a rectangle, and the image that we loaded is not. So in the past, what I did was just by hand alter it. So we had the image, which is 1024 by 768. There's actually a numerical way to change properties. So I would do 1.024 to 0768, and I would have the texture in scale. But at the end of this tutorial, I hope that we still have time. No, I'll make time. You can skip all the horrors that we just did, and now you're really wondering why you would want to go through all this to be able to load a texture. And I can tell you, you don't have to. I did this just to show you why we're doing it, that there are materials, and then there are textures, then you have you know, the 3D view, and then you have the final render, and they don't have to be in sync. There's a lot of effort that's involved, and you don't have to do this. What you can do, I'm gonna start from scratch really. I'm just gonna remove this. What you're gonna do is we're gonna activate a plugin that's called you know, Open Image as Texture. Haha. Now the first thing you need to do is you need to enable it. So you go to File, User Preferences, and then there's add-ons conveniently placed, and one of those is import image, import images. I actually have it enabled, but you won't. And this thing does exactly what it says, and that is that we're gonna file import images as planes. Haha. And now we go back to our little project. What was that? Home, Monster Video, My Movies, Screencasts, Blender, Assets, Textures. There we go. And now you select it, and you would confirm. I don't know if I was explicit about that. You confirm the selection by hitting return or enter. But at the bottom here, sadly, it's not. These settings are not persistent. You can probably find it in the script itself. I haven't had the time, but so what you do is you select shadeless, so it actually creates a material for you. So this is the shadeless button that we wanted. Use alpha, pre-multiply. That is essentially what we wanted. And these are just two ways of how you want to deal with transparency. For our purposes, we definitely don't want to ray trace, and we just make our render slower, and it will look exactly the same. And the last one is use image dimensions. That means that the tweaking of the aspect ratio that we did at the end, this does it all. This creates a material, it imports, it sets the proper settings, and also scales the plane accordingly to the texture. So this little script saves you years of lifetime of doing animation. And you can probably even open up all of these, and that is not the case. So it only opens up the last one. Never mind that. So we're gonna do the same thing again. Import images in place, and again I need to toggle all these on and open it up, and there we go. So that is how you get textures as planes into Blender. Now, I could have done this in 30 seconds, but I still hope that you guys, apart from Peter, you guys are going to be happy that we went through all this. So the next time, we're going to be talking about animating things. That's going to be exciting. So take care, guys, and thumb up the video if you like this and want to hear more of these. Bye-bye.